Today we are covering faster first 5 steps. So you want to play better hockey, just not being taught the way that you probably should be getting, but you're not, but you see these other players who are getting it and you're like, why can't I be like them? Well, this series is for you. We're looking to get a faster first 5 steps. So one of the things I've realized about speed is that it is very precise, and it's actually much harder to train than a lot of people have said or maybe implied that it is. It is something very neurologically demanding. It is something that takes a lot of smart training, I would say. And because of that, it's not something that should be thrown around just like, oh, you just got to get faster. You just got to get faster. There's a specific technique to it, not just in the gym setting, but it's also the on-ice training too. Training speed is very precise. So in a sense, this means something like moving your feet fast is a lot different than being the fastest in the first 5 steps that you take. Millions of dollars are made in those first 5 steps that you take. So this is true not just in hockey, but in all sports that you see. So you got the football, you got the soccer, you got basketball, you got just general track and field sports that you see. Those first 5 steps, the distance that you take, the rate at which you move your feet to get there to, that is something that matters a lot, and I've seen it firsthand too. So the thing to clear up right away when we're talking about how to get a faster first 5 steps is that traditional ladder drills or traditional agility drills where you just move your feet fast, it is actually not the same thing as being able to get into a set distance in the first 5 steps. There's a time and place, I think, for like the ladder and agility drills where you're just staying in place because, well, I think there's an element of deception with it, depending on what you train, of course. But again, if we're talking about something precise like getting faster, working on your speed, well, we need to do something different. And that is why those traditional agility drills won't train it the same way. I also think it's important to distinguish an expression of speed versus a builder of speed. You can even point to an example of this in traditional weight training, where actually working on the eccentric a lot, more often than not, helps out the concentric. But the concentric actually won't help out the eccentric, even if you just continue to rep them out. The best example of this is with the Nordic hamstring curl, or even a leg curl machine, where you could do two things with that. You could pump out reps, which is something I used to do, or you can work the way down slowly, fight it down somewhere between 4 and 8, sometimes 10 seconds. Or you could just do eccentric Nordics, where you fight down deliberately for 8, 10, sometimes 12 seconds. While there's a time and place to incorporate the concentric, we have to remember that in that case, the eccentric is actually the thing that helps to build the speed and also to build the strength. That is what has you get faster progress rather than just pumping out reps. I also think another example of this gets into what I'm talking about, what I'll talk about later with the plyometrics. It's the debate over the box jump versus the depth jump. Now, I like depth jumps a lot better because they're teaching your body to absorb the contact into the ground and then spring back up again. That is something that can be measurably progressed. Now, you could say the same thing about box squats, I guess, but the fundamental difference there is that on a box squat, you're jumping up to a surface before you have to hop back down. Does that build strength? Does a box squat actually build strength or connective tissue ability or general ability to jump high? In my experience, it actually doesn't. I think the depth jump actually, again, because you're absorbing your contact and then springing back up again. The better that you get at your jump technique, or even the more explosive you get, the stronger that you get. You're going to end up jumping higher and putting more force into the ground with and which means more force into your ankles, knees, body. And that's how you can continue to progress the depth jump. Also, not too many people know how to land, or they're not confident enough in their body's ability to land in a certain position. The depth jump actually will help you to land, and then you can spring out of that just fine. So in a way, you're actually building up some resistance with a depth jump, whereas with a box jump, you just go up to a surface and there's no, as soon as you reach a certain height, there's no rebound effect. Like you're just up on a higher surface. That's also an example where there's an expression versus a builder. The box jump is an expression of speed or strength or ability, but the depth jump is more of a builder, even though there's some ability that you need in the depth jump. Like obviously if you have a sprained ankle, it's not going to work to work on depth jumps. But provided that you have all that fixed and you have no injuries, the depth jump seems to be superior versus the box jump, although both have their time and place. Now, moving on from that, in general, to get faster, you need to train your alactic capacity, which in layman's terms means that you need to get stronger. You also need to just lift things faster. You need to jump higher repetitively. And on the ice, let's say, you need to increase the cadence of your footwork, which you can do off the ice too, but with like sprints. But those are basically the 4 steps into increasing your alactic capacity. All of this is true plyometrics. Now here's some of my progressions. Technically, the sled is a plyometric because it is mostly a concentric movement, but it's also very safe for anyone to get into. So in addition to it having some healing benefits, you could also do some hard sprints on it. Again, provided that you're fully healthy, you can load the thing up heavy and try to push it as fast as you can. Say like you load the sled up with literally 1,000 pounds and it does move, provided it's very slow, but you're pushing it as far as you can. That is technically a plyometric. Sleds will also teach the body to move faster with more weight. In a fundamental sense, the sled teaches the body to move faster with more weight. And it's been proven time and time again, especially in many studies, to help increase speed and vertical jump ability. After the sled, I actually have people get into structural balance first, which I know I talked about in a previous video in this series, but you will need that. It is very hard to not be structurally balanced and then immediately jump into these plyometrics, and you actually have more risk for this just because there's a lot more stress on the tendons, ligaments, connective tissue. So if those are not healthy, it's not going to work. These plyometrics are not going to work if they're not healthy. Then I get into some depth jump progressions. I actually have people start out with barbell hops. So they'll have a bar on the back, and then they'll do a set probably of like 10 sets of those 10 hops in 10 minutes. That's a pretty safe one. A lot of people can do inside of some depth jump progressions where you just hop off of about a 6-inch box, which is kind of all you need. And then you stick the landing. And then once you're comfortable with that, you land and then jump up a little bit. Then once you're really, really comfortable, you can jump off, say, like a 1-foot box, land 1 foot on the ground, both feet up at the same time, land back down, jumping as high as you can. Another one of my progressions is hill sprints with full recovery, which is similar to having sprints with a sled. They kind of do the same thing, so it's just a variation of that. So I'll add actually that there's an option to do sled sprints along with this, because I know not everyone has access to a hill, but if you do, hill sprints also have been proven time and time again in a lot of sciences. They do make you faster and jump higher. After those progressions, I get into on-ice cadence with people's footwork. So what I like to do, actually, is I'll match up a metronome with their footwork, or I'll do some audible claps with their specific footwork. Obviously, they have to know the footwork first. They have to know the mechanics first. You have to be able to do the mechanics without any movement errors. Like all that has to be set up first before they get into making the cadence go a lot faster. And that's how you can tell that you've mastered a lot of movements. But even after on ice cadence, there are some advanced plyos you can consider, such as Masai jumps, bounds on a single leg. There's also 2 up, 1 down. Like basic plyos like this, you get really, really, really good at them, even though they're advanced. And again, you have to do them after you're done with the sled, the structural balance, some depth jump progressions, sled or hill sprints, and an on ice cadence. That is when you can get into some advanced plyos, I think. And then even after that, I have what's called jump balance. So this is a term coined from basketball where you're jumping off of what's known as all 4 plants. So you have a right-left plant, the jump, you have a left-right plant, you have a right single leg plant, and you have a left single leg plant. All of those, you want to be able to jump equally high off of all 4 plants if you can. Now, the single leg ones, obviously you're not going to be able to jump as high, but let's imagine we get the 2 double legs together and then the 2 single legs together. Ideally, you want those to be like as close as possible on both metrics. And this is how you can tell that you have balance between sides when you're looking to get faster and you're looking to develop your speed. Even though this is more of a jump, even though it's more of focus on the vertical force, this will still help your speed on the ice. Now, there's even other things that you can incorporate in your regular strength lifts too. Say if you're on a speed block, you can add what's called a myotatic bounce, where let's say you're in a squat, you go all the way down, you come up a quarter, back down, bounce, come all the way back up. That can work very well for explosive movements. There's a debate as to whether just working the concentric will help your speed. I'm of the mindset where speed gets a little bit more quickly developed with something like a myotatic bounce or the plyos that we discussed, or even like a sled or different sprints. I don't think you need to do it with weightlifting, although there is a time and place to only work the concentric. I think that can be worked on separately, like even just mastering your own body weight with the plyos. But if you did want to incorporate speed, say with the major lifts, myotatic bounces are a great way to do that. There's also the concept of contrast training, which is great for doing right before the start of a season. So imagine you do heavy squat for about 2 reps. Then you take a barbell and do snatch grip hops for about 4 reps. And then you rest for about 3 minutes, repeat it again for a set amount of sets. That is contrast training. So you're pairing a heavy movement with a fast movement. That can also help develop speed and jump ability. But that's also one that's more suited for just before the season starts. There's a host of other options, but in a basic sense, to go over my progressions again, you have the sled, you have some depth jump progressions, you have hill sprints or sled sprints, on ice cadence, a few advanced plyos that you can get very good at, and then jump balance. You get good at all of that, I think you're going to get faster very, very quickly, rather than just trying out a bunch of different things. You just focus on these essentials and you don't have to worry about being yelled at for not moving your feet fast because you're going to be flying out there. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.